All right, since Amber's not here, I'm just gonna list off, so we have Julie McKenzie online, Kelly Tarbell in person, Kim Benson in person, myself in person, and we have Jeff Gantz online. I don't see anybody else online, okay. So prior to approving the agenda, just a couple of things. We will not be reorganizing the board at this meeting. That comes next month after the individual boards have reorganized. So I'd like to just remove that, we'll table it until next month. That's acceptable. And then if we are going to move forward with the Rural School Community Alliance, that needs to be discussion, not just action. That's all I have. And then is this executive action? This is supposed to, or session, that's for this meeting?
I had put it on there because I thought we were gonna have something to discuss, we don't.
Okay, so we'll remove that.
Yeah, you can vote to table that as well.
So table it.
Yeah.
All right, so if everyone's okay with those changes, look for a motion to approve the agenda with these changes.
Motion.
So this Kelly, Kelly. Somebody needs to mute. Okay, so that was approved. Everyone was okay. All right. So who seconded that? Was that you?
I'll second.
Okay. I just wanna-
I think everyone said yes, so
I just wanna.
we'll pick one to officially do.
Okay. All right, so 4 is tabled, so 5, superintendent's report.
Actually try to be a little briefer today, but obviously the big thing was the budget votes. So the Green Mountain Union School District passed by 425 to 382. They also voted on the reserve fund, and a couple of us were talking about it. It was kind of funny because we talked about moving money over into the reserve fund to support facilities, and that one was 632 to 172 in favor of. So I wonder if that's meaning that folks are aware of the facility issues and trying to, throw a little support our way for that. Ludlow Mount Holly overall failed by 2 votes, 337 to 339. Ludlow had voted for the budget. They were in the positive territory. Mount Holly voted it down with enough votes that it canceled out Ludlow as well. And so one of the things that will be discussed at the next Ludlow meeting, which is next week on Wednesday, is what to do. We had a open forum last night with the Ludlow community. We had a pretty good turnout. We had the PTG there and a few folks online, and in communicating with them and trying to kind of analyze the vote itself. They kind of came back and said, look, a lot of it was that, people just didn't show up, so maybe it's a communication thing. And the suggestion and the recommendation was to keep the vote the same. In other words, don't change the budget, go back out again for it. And they looked at the overall numbers and said, yeah, those are really, really low. And so we did put together kind of a communication plan, which I think is a really good one. There were a lot of good ideas that came up. That Craig and I are going to work on and try to get that out. Communication improvements. These are one of the things that we've been talking about actually in both districts, especially the outreach committee on the Green Mountain side. There are some aging Facebook pages for the district that some of them are allowing comments, some of them are not. Typically, if you allow comments, you are creating what's called an open forum, which means that once people start posting to it, you can't stop them from posting it. You can't control things. And so the idea was, let's get through the first budget vote, and then we're going to turn off the old ones. We're going to turn on new Facebook accounts for TRSU in each of the schools. And then, keep the comments off, so it's just information going out. And the hope is with Facebook, if we can figure it out, is that if people are signed up for it, to kind of follow our accounts, when we send it out, they'll get the little notification message so they know there's something to look for. And Julie has been awesome in setting this up and thinking her way through it. And she's got her team together that's putting some procedures together so that those of us that are posting on there are doing it correctly. So I think that's good. Green Mountain, There was some discussion at the Green Mountain board at the last meeting over the mascot. We did do the vetting. Todd reached out to the AOE. I reached out to legal counsel. John reached out to VPA. I think it was John. It might have been, was that you or was that John that reached out to VPA? That was you. Yeah, what I got was VPA was kind of non-committal. It kind of avoided answering the question. Legal counsel from the AOE basically just explained the rules to us, and our legal counsel says you're good to go. And so at least at this point in time, you know, we should be in good shape. I did read through the board policy. One of the requirements is that there is a complaint procedure for it that's supposed to be developed. We might have had one, but we couldn't find it. So I created one, you know, with the help of legal counsel. So that whole policy is in place the way that it needs to be. Todd might touch on this, but it just came in today. They did the lead testing over at Green Mountain High School, and actually the results were pretty good. It looks like they tested 21 sources. 20 were in very good shape. 19 of them were 1 part per billion or less for lead. Vermont's action level is 4 parts per billion, and the EPA's action level is 15. We did have one sink that was at 9 parts per billion, so it's under the EPA above Vermont's. And it was during what they call the initial flush. They test the faucets twice. If the first water that comes out of there is testing positive for the lead at a higher level, that usually means it's the faucet that you need to replace. If they turn the water on for a little while and then they take the sample, which they do, and you get a lead reading in there, that means that it's probably in the pipes. This one's in the faucet, so it should be an easy fix. One of the reason I'm talking about this is because anytime there's any lead at all, schools have to send letters out to the community, no matter how low the amount is. So basically, the federal government has never required the folks that are making faucets to remove lead from them. And so the reality is that everybody who's got a faucet is going to have at least a minuscule amount of lead in their water that's going to show up on the testing. But again, it's below 1 part per billion. Taking a look at some more information that's kind of coming out of the legislative work that's happening. The governor, as part of his budget proposal, put some money aside for PCB remediation, $9.5 million, which probably may not even cover a school. The original amount that they had put away when they started to realize they were going to have to do remediation was $32 million. Half of that went to Burlington, and I think probably the majority of the other half went to North Country. So depending upon the state to try to get this stuff done is going to be difficult. And then the last piece is negotiations. So March 13th at 4:30 p.m., we're meeting again with the teachers. It'll be right here in this room. In Cavendish, and on March 18th at 4:30 p.m.
The 11th is just before the 13th.
Yeah, that's what I said. So by March 18th at 4:30, we're meeting with the Ludlow Mount Holly support staff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Unless there's questions or other things that people have. I did send out a fairly lengthy written report that's more about kind of the governor's plan, potential impacts over the next couple of years.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? You said something about, and maybe I wasn't quite listening, but you said something about the mascot at Green Mountain. Does that mean they can keep the chieftains? Is that what you were referring to? No.
No,
Okay.
chieftains are gone.
Okay.
John actually, he did a really good job. We connected first with the Alumni Association, and then he worked with them. He worked with the students. He worked with some of the community members. They got 5 different mascots, all animals, that the kids were interested in. The top 5, they went out and did a vote on it. And so what they came back with is the Grizzlies. So they're looking to be the Green Mountain Grizzlies. So they've got the name. The rest of the year is trying to find the image for it.
Okay. And I guess I'm confused. The AOE, VPA, legal counsel.
Just checking to make sure that image,
Grizzlies was good.
that name and the potential image is not a
Okay.
problem.
All right.
And it
I
is good.
thought we were
Yeah.
traveling back in time for a minute, okay.
Well, wait, if we don't have an image, how are they saying it's good?
They, assuming that it's a bear, or a normal grizzly bear is not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just, unless there's anything else for Lane, is there any questions on the report? I made an error here when we were talking about the minutes, when we were talking about Dave, and I jumped over approving last meeting's minutes. So, if everyone's had a moment to look at them, an approval to approve the minutes from the February 17th meeting.
I'll move to approve February 17th meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes?
All right.
All right, thank you. Nobody opposed them. All right, so those are those. Thank you for that. Okay, so now we can get to the TRSU facilities report.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'll try to be brief, but there is quite a bit to go through. At Green Mountain, like Lane said, there was some talk about the new mascot. We had a couple board members with actually some good ideas to make sure we followed through with the VPA or somebody with a higher authority to make sure if we did approve this mascot that there wasn't going to be a problem. So I reached out to the VPA. They pointed us in the direction of the AOE, and we got in writing that as far as they can see, everything is good to go. And so Lane reached out to our legal counsel to make sure all of our bases were covered and everything says that it's okay. The lead testing, I'll just reiterate a little bit what Lane said. So it's better actually than the one faucet that we had tested is a hand washing station only. It is not used for drinking. It's in our dishwashing area, and it tested above that low, that 4 parts per billion level the last time, and all we had to do was post it to say that it is for hand wash only, which is what it was only used for anyway. So this should be a very easy fix. I think they're just going to let us leave it be the way it is. And all the rest of them, like Lane said, were the highest was 2, and the majority of them were all 1. So that was pretty good. Harper finished up the source sampling. We haven't had the results back from that. We expect to see those at some point. The last round of indoor air quality testing came back, and all the numbers had dropped dramatically, which they expected in the wintertime with no disruption to any caulking or glue. So that's par for the course for those, and our filters are working the way they're supposed to. I want to thank Cheryl here. Cheryl and I worked, I shouldn't say Cheryl and I helped Cheryl very little, and Cheryl put together the bid papers and got everything off. So the bids are out for our fire door project and alarm update to come in compliance with the fire marshal report. So that is out, and we should be presenting that. Cheryl I'll be on vacation. I'll try to jump on Zoom on the March 20th meeting. Chester Andover, we're moving forward. I think that's all I want to say, Cheryl, about FEMA. We're moving forward. I'm hoping that's a good thing, but that's moving as we expect. I think Ludlow, they've requested their lead testing, so that should be coming through. Mount Holly, Cavendish as well. Cavendish has sent theirs in. I believe Emma sent theirs out. They're doing their testing this week. PFAS testing is going to be done in Mount Holly. I know that's getting done today and tomorrow. We do have a problem at Mount Holly with the roof. They've had some leaking with the roof, so that's Mount Holly roof is starting to show, the signs that something needs to be done there sooner than later. And that's about it, unless anybody's got any questions. Emma and I are meeting with the fire marshal tomorrow over to check over things for the preschool at Cavendish. We don't expect any surprises there, not after meeting with the state. Julie?
I had a question for you. In regards to the, you said the VPA and the AOE both said we're good to go with the Grizzly at GM. Will we get something in writing from the AOE stating?
I have it already. Yep,
They will stand up for this. If I
They-
just keep back to the NAACP sent us a letter and they complained about the Thunderbird, it's an animal, and the flying turtle. So,
Yeah.
and it's sacred to their religion, and I'm sure any Google search will bring us a grizzly somewhere in their religion. I just want to make sure that I have no problem going forward. Again, GM issue, I have no problem going forward, but from the financial aspect, if somebody finds some sort of connection and then we go through this again, I just don't want to see another loss financially if we have to change things over. So I just want the AOE to say, yep, no, we're good. So if the NAACP sends us a letter, they're not going to respond to it and make us change things again.
I'm gonna send Adrian, I thought I attached you to the email that I forwarded to Lane, but maybe I didn't, from the AOE. That
Okay.
anything that they, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, that anything that they saw, the research that they did, that the Grizzlies meet the criteria that the state has set forward for mascots.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great if you could send that along. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, so the process would be, even if everything is perfect, anybody can make a complaint. So they would have a hearing before the board. If they weren't happy with the answer, they would take it to the AOE. And at that point in time, the AOE should look at what they advised us and say, no.
And that's what I mean. That's what I want is the AOE to, something that says the AOE is going to stand by their decision.
Yeah.
If something comes along again. That's all I really want to see. All right. Thank you, Todd. Any questions, Todd?
Julie McKenzie?
Have you gotten estimates for the roof at Mount Holly yet?
No, we were waiting for some, I think the last time we talked, we were waiting for the budget to see what's gonna be with that.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, but with this big melt that they had, Craig called me yesterday or the day before and said that with the melt, they were having some leaking inside the building and we're gonna try to pull some snow off that roof, which the roof has got a pretty good pitch on as it is, but with the amount of snow we got and then the quick warm up and the rain, they've got some problems, so which we knew was coming.
Was it in the section that's been repaired?
I don't know that, Julie. You didn't say exactly where it was.
Okay. Because is it my memory is that this past summer possibly we did some emergency repair work on that roof?
Yeah, that hasn't been leaking, but Craig didn't say exactly where it was coming from. But,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Todd? Okay, thank you. We can move on to the curriculum director's report.
Yeah, let's see, Louisa. She was going to be here, so I hope nothing bad is going on, but I can do a brief update. Currently, a lot of the work is around getting set up for the full day professional development that's on the 21st of this month. There's been some time that has been spent taking a look at the very large number of initiatives that are going on around curriculum, both in ELA and in math. And at the principals meeting tomorrow, the intent is to go in and take a look at them and kind of weed them down a little bit. Which ones have the staff latched on to the point where they're actually implementing it in the classroom and it's affecting kids. And so we're going to try to prioritize the ones that seem that they're having the most impact, and then hammer away at those until we get all the benefit out of them that we get so that we're not spreading people too thin. The other piece that came up was, I think it was Julie did a wonderful work as well as Emma did, but the math moments, there was a contract signed for about $15,000 worth of work with this group called Math Moments that I believe is primarily about coaching. And so Louisa is running around right now trying to make sure that we spend every penny of that before the contract is up. So that's one of the things that she's been engaged in. And those are the big things right now.
She had a report prepared.
Yeah, I believe so.
Maybe she can send the deck out to the
Gotcha.
board afterward. All right, if there's no questions for Lane on the curriculum, we can move to the financial update.
Okay, we have February in the folder. Central office, we've spent 65.2% of the budget so far. 8 months in, we expect to be about 66%. we're looking good there. Transportation aid finally arrived. They were way late this year, but we got 2/3 of the expected money. Green Mountain buses are approaching the repair and maintenance that we had budgeted. Actually, I think they're over it at this point, but we budgeted 35,000. We did up it to 40, but the buses are now 5 years old, so the repairs get higher as the buses get older. So Green Mountain spent 55.77% and Ludlow, Mount Holly spent 41.86%, of course that's because they don't have, well, I guess Dennis is now working, so they haven't had a bus driver in Mount Holly for a while. Special education, nothing notable, they're at 59.54%.
I don't remember the answer to this just because of all the back and forth about who owned the buses and that sort of thing last time around. Do we have a plan in place for when buses start breaking down to buy them? Like, weren't we talking about putting money aside at one point?
So we do, we have probably, I'm not sure what's happened lately, but I think there's almost like $190,000 so that we could start to do this. I think Todd might be able to chime in on this because there's some buses that have lower mileage so that we can think about starting a rotating process.
Like a
We're still
trickle.
not buying 7 at one time.
Okay, good, all right.
Todd, do you know if that's,
We have one, we sold the one bus with the most miles that we had to Mount Holly. And we have one other bus that has the next highest miles that runs the tech center. And that bus gets we're starting to rotate that bus around and give that driver that goes to the tech center the next lowest mileage bus. So yes, we're rotating buses around to try to equal out the miles, but our buses do run a lot of miles. So if it's time to replace them, we can replace them with higher mileage buses, but even our highest mileage bus for diesels is not very high.
We used to find about 7 years. About 7 years of wear and tear on the buses, especially if they're hitting a lot of dirt roads, was about the limit. It wasn't the mileage that killed them, it just, they would start to degrade. New bus, and it's probably changed in the last year, and will probably change if those tariffs go through. New buses usually 85, 90,000.
we have a couple.
So it's just a rotation process. Okay, and so is it gonna be the TRSU's responsibility to maintain some sort of fund for
So
replacing?
it's just because of the way we've done this transportation budget, we would budget it in the Green Mountain, transportation assessment. And Green Mountain holds those.
Okay,
And so Ludlow Mount Holly has the last one that's significant, the last one.
Yeah, we save miles on our buses.
alright, so the GM board would then have to be made or be allocating funds so that we've got.
Yeah, so we
Money
have that.
for a
I
rotation.
don't, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
We're doing a good chunk, but I'm not sure if it's. So we'll have to look at that.
Okay. When would be a good time? I can ask you at the GM meeting. When would be a good time to start looking at that? Sorry, thank you. Okay, any questions for Cheryl on the financial update? Scott's got his hand up. Scott? Are you talking, Scott? Oh, he's gone.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Here I am, okay.
Question for Todd or Lane. We talked about this before, I think a year ago at Green Mountain. Just curious if we're doing oil undercoats to the buses now because the main thing that rots out is the handicap doors on those.
Yep. So last year, Scott, after you talked about it, we actually have one of the teachers at Green Mountain that does it and treated us pretty well and did all 8 buses. He actually just asked me if we wanted to do them again. And it seems like the undercoating that he put on is holding up. So we'll wait until, winter's over and I'll take a crawl underneath a couple buses and make a decision if we're going to do that again this year. But to answer your question, we did. We undercoated them last year, this summer. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
And that included the Mount Holly bus when you said 8? No, okay. Just checking.
All right, if there's no more questions on that, we can move into old business, which was the negotiations update, which Lane already included in the superintendent report, unless there's more that you wanted to
No,
say.
it's all confidential until we get to a certain point in the
Okay.
process.
All right, so unless there's questions about the confidential stuff you can't tell us. We can go to new business, which is the Rural School Community Alliance.
Yeah, so this was something that David Martin had kind of touched into, is that there's a group of schools and districts in this area, especially because, they're spread out and low population density, that are really concerned about the loss of the smaller schools and the impact that might have on the surrounding communities. They're kind of, I guess you call them a political action.
I was just gonna ask if they're a PAC.
Yeah, their goal is they're sitting together, they're strategizing, possible solutions, but also ensuring that they're communicating with the legislature about what their concerns are. A lot of the discussion that has happened was one, to be a part, because I think, folks are worried about the schools around here. But also just to get the information, because it looks like they're doing a bit of research and they're connecting with a lot of parts and pieces that it might be nice to know. Ludlow Mount Holly was taking a look at whether or not it was okay for the board as a whole to join, and I don't think there's any cost with it. We did check with legal counsel and they said, yep, perfectly appropriate if you voted in. They said you could even spend a little money if you wanted to, but you'd probably get a little pushback. It's legal, but it's not recommended.
So it's appropriate for boards to join political action committees?
You could, yeah. Because you have a responsibility to look out for the best interest of your town and your folks, and if that helps you get you where you need to go.
And,
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, and to be clear, we have not spent any money, and I think it was, talked about at our board meeting that we were not going to. I mean, not that we can't change that if something were to come up, but I don't think it's our intent to spend any money on this, but to keep informed and to have a voice. And I think Dave is kind of spearheading it and sending out a lot of information that I can't keep up with. But he is sending it all out, and hopefully I can catch up soon. There are a couple surveys out. And I haven't had a chance to even look at them, so I don't know if it's appropriate for the greater public or what it is. So if they are, maybe we can try to push them out to people and get more information. I just haven't had a chance to look at them.
A lot of them, and again, I had not pushed them out because it was unclear exactly who they were coming from.
Right.
A lot of them were kind of focused on questions like, what are the benefits that you see, of small schools? What do you expect out of the schools in your district? It was kind of generic questions. And so they were looking primarily for narrative answers.
And if somebody at our open forum last night had a very valid point that, depending on who put the survey together, it can have leading questions and gather information that's a little skewed. So, but again, I haven't even opened that.
Yeah, I know, the one that, the most recent one we got, said like the survey is made up of 20 optional questions and was put together by the Speaker of the House's office. Results will be distributed to state legislatures and relevant committees. And that's your voice on Vermont's public education future.
I've got
That's a
here.
good one.
Yeah, and then there's one that Lisa Schmidt mentioned in a meeting last night that I think I've seen on Facebook from other sources, but I don't know if it's that exact one that she's talking about, but my hope was to look at both of those over the weekend.
I think what I would like to see is, I shouldn't say, I don't say I would like to see. I think what would probably be best is the individual boards make their decisions, and then there's a liaison. I don't necessarily think the TRSU should, say that we're joining as opposed to having liaisons from the individual boards, because I don't know if the representation, like what if one board wants it, the other board doesn't, or something like that. I just want to be careful with that. That's my only 2 cents.
Scott's
Yeah. Scott?
Lane, I got a question for you. During our town meeting here in Andover, our state rep, Chris Morrow, was standing up and said that the governor has tried to change his idea of what he's going to do with the education thing a few times, and one of his ideas was to totally remove Act 60. Did you hear that?
No, I have not. Usually, at this stage of the game in the legislative process, the Superintendent's Association has its CEO that is attending all those meetings, and if something like that came up, usually they get that out to us immediately. So it doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I haven't heard that, and I haven't seen that kind of communication yet.
Okay.
That would be it. That's special.
Are there any other thoughts in regards to this rural alliance, or rural school community alliance?
73.
I have been keeping up with the, or mostly, with the, sort of flood of emails
Yeah.
that has come in. And I personally have found it relevant to our board, their advocacy. There was initially, David had circulated their sort of position statement. And I think it's really my impression, based on what I've seen and the sort of advocacy that I've seen, is to amplify the voice of small rural communities about the very unique circumstances of, educating students in a rural population. So, distance to school and, sort of the secondary community benefits of having a community school, particularly for, younger kids, and, all things that seem appropriate and relevant and sort of consistent with my understanding of the values sort of our district and our school. So just wanted to chime in and say that I appreciate the information. I appreciate what they're doing to try to get some attention on the uniqueness of our small rural schools.
Do you think Ludlow Mount Holly would be willing to appoint whoever, like when you guys reorganize, and who's going to be on the board moving forward, for someone to be like the point person and the liaison to the TRSU? Ideally someone that's going to consistently show
That's what I
up.
was hoping to discuss at our next meeting.
Yeah.
As well, because I know like one of the things is like they created like a form for letter for legislatures, to send to them, like then who's gonna do that? So
Yeah, and just
maybe
being
it'd be perfect to do that.
bringing it back to the, kind of like which, what your board is doing in regards to things. And then Lisa, who's not here today, had asked for it to be put on the GM agenda, probably to discuss as well.
Right.
So
I think that is my hope as well, although we haven't discussed it. We do have it on our agenda for next week, and so I think that can be part of that discussion for sure. And one of us can keep up. Julie.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
And then whatever, we'll figure that out, and then we'll bring that back here and at least have just an update on it. And then if you guys also discuss it and decide to join, then
we can
have, yeah.
liaison,
we
that's
can-
fine.
we can just keep dotting our i's and crossing our t's for sure.
And just a pitch, like if it ends up being Dave Martin, just asking him to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there like continues to happen as like a guest kind of
Yeah.
really too.
Okay. All right. Scott, did you have something, or was that from your last one?
No, there is, I guess my question would be to this. If anybody knows, I've been kind of looking and following in on it. Is there any effect towards like independent schools, or independent public schools towards this whole new plan? I mean, are they also being, shut down or possibly shut down?
So independent schools, if you mean the private schools that, the state is tuitioning students to. The governor's original plan actually called to increase that. The House came back and said, we're willing to work with you, but that piece of it is not going to happen. I was doing a bit of an analysis, and some of it is in the written report that came out a little while ago that I sent out. The state, out of its education fund, I think it's $52 million. They're spending $52 million to send kids to independent and private schools in Vermont out of the education fund.
Is that based on like Oklahoma Holly's tuitioning their kids?
To tuitioning to private schools.
Schools like, or districts like that.
Yeah.
Like Burton.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big chunk of money.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions about the Rural Alliance or any legislative stuff going on right now?
I can just say, Scott, I did look up that what you said about Act 60 and Governor Scott saying he's going to remove it. There has definitely been talk about Act 60, but I can't read this and this at the same time and know for sure if it's accurate what you heard.
It might have been a response to the executive order about getting rid of diversity and DEI, because Act 60, I think we're looking it up as the Equity Act. And so they obviously, when that executive order came out, if that's the case, they probably would have taken a look at what the order had and compared it to their policies and things that are in place that it might affect.
Okay.
Yes.
If you find anything, please send me anything you can. Anybody. I've been trying to get an answer from our state rep when he talks about this during the town meeting, and I have not received anything back.
It might be worthwhile actually emailing the governor's office to ask for clarification.
Okay. I don't know where that'll get you, but okay.
I mean, in regards to, I don't know if it would be appropriate to identify yourself as a board member, but just say, this information's made its way to you. You're just looking for clarification, not looking for justification or anything like that. Just, was this statement made, or is there clarification about the statement if it was made? Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Then we can move into policy governance. Just some reminders about the dates. We're going to be meeting March 25th here for 2 hours in the evening to start our work on policies. And then the next date will be April 22nd at Ludlow. Any questions about that? Brings us to a public comment section. There were no policies adopted at this meeting. Our next regular meeting is set for April 3rd, 6 p.m. in Ludlow, Mount Holly. And again, remembering that we have the March policy meeting. No, I just don't forget that. And then there was no executive session. So that will bring us to board self-evaluation. So board members were given. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Did you say something?
No, I just unmuted for a second.
Board members have given and were given and read the agenda and background materials prior to the meeting. All right.
Yes.
Board members were respectful to each other, the public and the administration.
Yep.
Board members handled conflict openly and constructively.
Yep.
Board members focus on the role and responsibility of the board.
Yep.
Board members act as a team once a decision has been made and work collaboratively throughout the decision-making process.
Yep.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, take a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned at 6:39.